now to my colleague, Governor in 2008-2009, because he's climbed the ladder high. A person who's called Guru of Gurus by his friends, a past international director of Lions Club International, and a very prominent JCI member, a trainer of trainers who has been training at the Lions International level as well. It is also certified the same. We have him talking to us on the topic unlocking uncertainties. In the current situation, I think this is a wonderful topic, and I will not take much of the time and forward this platform to SUNIL KUMAR, our next presenter. SUNIL, kindly take over.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, my dear friends. What a great pleasure it is to be connected via GoToMeetings with almost 440 attendees that I currently see who are a part of this interactive discussion. Unfortunately, I had lost my dad a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going through certain rituals which prevents me from coming live on the screen, which I would so much desire, but would appreciate if you could empathize with me and allow me to do the presentation based upon the screens and the slides that I have created. Spend a little bit of extra effort on making these slides because you would not see me in action, but at the same time would be able to better connect with my thought and the point that the slide would want to share. Rajesh, past Governor Rajesh, my most sincere compliments to you. You've taken up such a big challenge like a learnathon. It's a marathon training, and you've got 400 to 500 lions and a few friends join us. And it's not an easy ordeal. You start off at 9 in the morning and continue till almost the end of the evening. I'm not too sure whether our friends have gone to the lunch table or the lunch has come to their table. Nevertheless, what matters is that we are doing it so well with wonderful experiences of the speakers being shared with all. My compliments to you, Anand. I went through your session and I must say that you are a very enterprising resource for Lions Clubs International. My subject, ladies and gentlemen, is more related to the current scenario. For the last 4 or 5 days, I've been closeted onto Zoom globally, and since I represent the travel and tourism industry, the uncertainty that exists today has influenced me to choose this subject in order to be to give you some confidence to be able to convey to all of us that we need to look at a new opportunity in life. I would like to start off with my first slide, and this is something I truly believe in. You will see on to the right a book called Unlocking Uncertainties. This is one of those books that I had the opportunity to publish about 15 years ago. And never did we realize that at that point of time, when we were looking at certain possibilities the world would come up with, and we did mention that these possibilities will be beyond human domain if we are not prepared. And I would like to start off with this important Chinese proverb. If you want to know your past, look into your present conditions. If you want to know your future, look into your present actions. So who we are today, whatever we've achieved today, whatever we have qualified ourselves into, has a lot of bearing with the past that we've lived. And we are certainly grateful to this past for giving us this opportunity. We've all been blessed because we are lions and we've got this outstanding opportunity to remain connected as lions. So we celebrate this past, and past is always a celebration. But then the life does not end at this stage. We need to move on to future. And I'm one of those who's very passionate about this word called future, not because it's a word or it's an action verb, more because that's the place where all of us have to live. So when someone asks you a question, where would you be living tomorrow? Your response has to be, I will be living in a future. Now, what is this future all about? Are you aware of the place that you want to live? Look at the time we spend when we build a house, when we get the best of the interiors to decorate it. We are so excited, so passionate. Why? Because we want to go and live there. It's very similar with our life. We need to be as much excited when we talk about future, because that is where we will be spending the rest of our life. And for us to get into this future in the best possible way has a lot to do with our present actions. So what am I doing today to make my tomorrow big, to make my tomorrow happy, to make my tomorrow purposeful? In this book that I was talking about, I'd made a statement. The new prophecy that is now showing up all over is the age of possibility, where one would be a live witness to happenings that were hitherto dismissed as not possible or never imagined. Aren't we in one such situation that there is a new age that has come in? Some of us are not aware of this age. Some of us have been aware of this age. But today everyone is aware about it because of COVID-19. And this is the age of possibility. So what does an age of possibility tell us? Anything is possible. Everything is possible. Please don't dismiss it out of your mind that I don't need to grow up towards this level because I don't need that to be applied in my tomorrow. Sorry. It's an age that can bring in any amount of disruptions if you and I are not ready. So my question to all of us is, if there is an age that is currently prevalent called the age of possibility, then where does this lead us to? What is its impact on many of us? Impact surely will happen. So one of these possibilities, my dear friends, is something that was not imagined, and that has unfortunately arrived at this point of time. COVID-19. I don't think even a year ago, why talk about a year? Even 6 months ago, we were even aware that this possibility would come in and create such a big influence in our lives and make many of us to start thinking, have I done the right things? So uncertainties are those clouds of complexities. You have a lot of clouds under which you live. All of us see these passing clouds. Some of them are certain to happen, and you and I know about it. We get prepared about it, or we get prepared for it. But there are clouds that are complex, that reflect uncertainties. And the bigger challenge for you and me is, how prepared am I when there is an uncertainty that challenges me? Since morning, we are going through a lot of learning. What's the point of all that learning when it does not enable you to encounter an adversity? What is the point of that learning when that learning cannot pull you out of a situation which arrests you? There are situations that can arrest us physically, but in my opinion, and please permit me to say this, there are no situations that can imprison your mind. They can only imprison your body. And I believe we are into one such situation. And it is at this situation that we have an opportune time. The world was never aware of a lockdown that had kept a couple of billions of people indoors, not going out of home, from 1 week to 6 weeks and even more. When did we imagine that we are like a home arrest? You may call it working from home, you may call it home study, doesn't matter what title you want to give it, but your freedom is taken away and you're forced to remain at home. And this is not just with you and me, it's in most parts of the world. And it's not one or two who've been under the lockdown. Billions of people all over the world are locked down. And in this environment, in this kind of a scenario, it's time that you and I start identifying, what do I do in these situations? These situations are not regular ones. They're not the ones that you and I anticipated, but they are situations in which we are dragged into. And I think it's the best opportunity for us. Believe you me, it's the best opportunity for us to know thyself, an opportunity to introspect, an opportunity to study my past, an opportunity to review my today, an opportunity to plan my future. Three areas, three important areas. I've learned this lesson that when your living gets most difficult, uncomfortable, and challenging, that's when you discover yourself the most. So we are into difficult times, we are into uncomfortable times, and we are into challenging times. And I believe at this point of time, if we want to sleep off, be a Rip Van Winkle, or if we want to merely find ways to kill our time and not invest on yourself, then you're doing a great disappointment to your own self. Forget about the rest of the world. It's time for us to know thyself. Time for ourselves to be ready for a future that we have to soon get into. Look at the uncertainties that are a puzzle to the people today. No matter which part of the world you go to, these are the questions that are in the minds of people. Will the pre-COVID-19 wave come back? Pre-COVID-19 wave was an economic boom, was a wave where more people were traveling than ever, was a wave where excitement of this world was at its highest, was a wave where we were enjoying the fruits of a lot of innovations. Now the question is, will the pre-COVID-19 wave come back? People are asking this question to themselves. A lot of business people are asking, can I sustain my business successes? Will my customers continue to invest or continue to spend? Will life be the same again? Are my investments safe? Many of us have made investments. Are our investments safe? Young couples are talking this very often to one another. My God, the schools are about to open. 2 months from now? Will my children be safe at school? Can they not stay home for another 6 months? Because young couples, the thing that they love the most are their children. They are not ready to put their children to any amount of risk. People are also asking me, because I come from this industry, is it safe to fly? Can I travel in a train ever again? Is another question people are asking. Millions of people in India, forget about the world, travel for 24 long hours to even 34, 35 long hours, closeted with 75 to whatever number of people. Every station the train stops, they get down, they see loads of people there. Imagine, would somebody want to venture into that again? There are many more questions that today puzzles people. And these uncertainties are not enough if we have identified them. We need to find a way to leap beyond these uncertainties. And that's where comes the difference between the skill of a man and the skill of an animal, skill of a human being and the skill of an animal. We are those who are capable of evolution. Animals are not capable of evolution. They may be smarter than us, but they cannot evolve with times. But we have that gift that God has given to us. I was addressing a very large global meeting day before yesterday. We had about 800 people from 100 countries, and they were asking me about the future of tourism. I happen to be the global president of more than 75, 80 large associations of the world. Hundreds of thousands of travel agents and tour operators are members here. They've invested a lot of monies here. One of the worst affected industries in travel and tourism. And I was addressing them on an interactive Zoom. And this is what I mentioned to them. What are you talking about, you and me? Look at nations. There are more than 28 countries whose GDP from tourism is from 10 to 59%. So if there is no tourism, these countries are poorer by this much of revenue. You may wonder, what is this 59% all about? It's our neighbor, Maldives. 59% of the GDP of Maldives comes from tourism. Now, my dear friends, what would happen to these countries if they are to succumb to uncertainties? What would happen to them? What would happen to the quality of investments a nation has to do on its people when such large percentages of GDP get out of their income list? I have devoted my life to uncertainty, says Shekhar Kapoor, the famous director. I loved his statement. I have devoted my life to uncertainty, because he says certainty is the death of wisdom, thought, and creativity. So if you know what's happening tomorrow, what happens to you and me? We know about it, or we are complacent about it. We stop learning, we stop thinking, and we stop trying to become creative. In other words, go beyond our regular or obvious thoughts. And he's done it very well by making this statement that uncertainty sometimes in life must be regarded as an opportunity, as a boom time. Disasters like COVID-19 cannot stop us. In 100 years, there have been 3 big disasters, much bigger than COVID-19. I don't know how many of us are aware. And these 3 big disasters could not stop the world. Why? Because the generations before us, they proved successful. So now comes a scenario where we, the current generation, are forced into a challenge to prove to our generations before that we are better than you. So you can't give up. You can't say that I am not as good as my previous, because life is all about evolving into better situations. In 31 years, 1914 to 1945, three global major disruptions struck humanity. What happened? We lost countless people, massive wealth, energies, and a big human divide. What are these three global major disruptions? World War I, which started off in 1914, influenza known as the Spanish flu, though it has no origin to Spain, that started off in 1918, and then the World War II, which went on till 1945. If you look at the number of millions of people who've died, I would be bothering you for the rest of the day, because the numbers are so big. They are shocking. In influenza 1918, the population of the world then was 1.5 billion, 1,500 million people. How many were affected? How many were affected? 500 million. One in every three was affected. Now imagine, one in every three affected, and they still came out. We are talking about a coronavirus which has lasted till date for about 4-5 months. But look at influenza, or look at World War I, or look at World War II. They lasted for years, not months, for years. If I can recall right, influenza was there for 36 months. It was a misery to the people of the world for 36 continuous months. If you're looking at World War, one of the world wars, it started in 1941, World War II, and went on to 1945. A similar situation with even World War I. 4 years and 4 months, 52 months was the duration of the World War I. Now, my question is very simple to all of us. Did our generations not survive this? They did. And because of what they have done post these disasters, it has made this world a wonderful place to live. And we are the most blessed amongst generations today. Even after all these wars, what happened to the world today? It's a global village. There are large trade volumes between global regions and nations. Alliances and partnerships are beyond all boundaries. You have a world where an Indian can have a company with a European, an American, an Asian partner, sell any product anywhere freely in the world. The worst of the wars that you can recall, or the enemies that you can recall during the war, possibly was China and US. Have they not lived together for so many decades thereafter, one turning out to be the most favored nation of the other? So my question to all of us is, what is our way forward? Is there one? Are we making plans? And my response is that we have no option but to make plans for our way forward. And these plans are the plans that are very, very important. Rajesh, my presentation is stuck. It's not moving down. Rajesh. Anand, my presentation isn't moving forward. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
just give
you.
me a second.
That's okay. That's okay. You're on the right slide. So what are our plans? Start believing that you're gifted with the pit stop pause. What is a pit stop in a Formula One race? It's a place where you refuel. It's a place where there are mechanical adjustments. It's a place where you change tires. It's a place where you recharge and strategize for the next run. So for us, it's time we revisit our living model. Unlearning is an important skill. Many of us are not good at this skill. And unlearning is all about throwing a lot of garbage out of your mind. SWOT your capabilities, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your strengths. I think you need to identify or SWOT your capabilities. We need skills, we need learning, we need to be flexible, we need to remove biases out of our mind. We need to reach out. And what is our reach out rate today? I think it's time that you and I identify what is our reach out rate. Let's start writing a new story. We are privileged because of these times. Can we start writing a story about ourselves? Do we have enough stuff for the story? Some of us may have lived for 50 years, 60 years, 40 years, whatever number of years. If I have to write a story about myself, and this is a question that I want to ask every one of us, do you have enough stuff to write your story so that your future generations can go through it? We have to go multi-vocal, input new skills, change approaches, and most important, we need to reboot confidence. My favorite living style has been that I am not comfortable unless I am uncomfortable. So I love such situations. Believe you me, I love such situations. The nuts and bolts of my living enabled me to attempt what was considered not possible. When people said this is not possible, I was one of those rebels who used to come forward and say, hey, let me try it out. What was believed by many to be out of range, I always fought with myself to prove that I can possibly try and bring it in range. What would happen? If you can't achieve it, doesn't matter. What was beyond a normal and acceptable perception, and sometimes even what was ridiculed. There are situations when people ridicule, but I was never upset. I said, let me go ahead, do my bit because I have to manage myself. And that's the purpose of life. There's a lot of potential in all of us. And if I ask you a question, how do you define your potential? There's been a reference to it. I can only say current unrealized ability can be powered to take us to higher levels. Putting your potential to use is in your control. The opposite, putting your potential not to use is also in your control. So it's up to us. It's really, really up to us. Look at what happened recently when we talk about potential. Rajesh, it's stuck again. Rajesh, it is stuck again, my friend. Anand.
1 second.
The screen is stuck.
Maybe it's a network issue.
Not with
Let's just
me. I'm on a very, very powerful high band.
Right.
Who has the control currently? Yeah.
Okay, I got it here. What happened? Sanjay Kaitan.
Anand?
Yeah.
Can you please
Yeah.
bring me back?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So the question here is, when you talk about your potential, relate your potential to your relevance. If you can't relate your potential to your relevance, then I'm sorry, you're not actually going ahead the right way. So we talk about a recent happening, and I'm asking you a question. Time for one of you to answer to yourself. When do you think Reliance Jio was launched to the people of the world? When was this launched? Think about it. Well, here is the answer. Jio, after a soft launch for partners and employees, was publicly available on 5th September 2016. Barely 3 years ago, a little beyond 3 years. As of 31st December 19, what happened to Jio? It is India's largest mobile network operator and third largest mobile network operator in the world with over 370 million subscribers. How much stake did Facebook Incorporation acquire in Reliance? How much is paid towards the stake? It's not a big stake. They've taken a very small stake. What is the size of the stake that Facebook has taken in Reliance? In Jio, it is just 9.9%. Only 9.9%. And how much have they paid? 43,574 crore rupees. Now I'm talking about a scenario, my dear friends. An organization gets started in 2016 and mushrooms to what it is, as big as this, in 2019. Look at what Mark Zuckerberg says. 22nd April 20th, he made this statement that India has the largest community on Facebook and WhatsApp. And he adds on, India has more than 60 million small businesses. My God, what a massive reach out. And what a story for the world to appreciate that here is an organization in India that has this kind of a following, and who's done it? People like you and me. If Mr. Ambani could do it, why can't you and I have a similar thinking profile like these achievers? It's time that we emerge with a new resolve, stand by a code called the Champs Creed. And the Champs Creed is very simple. If you have to win, you have to choose to win. People talk about achievements as if they are magic. I don't think any achievement is magical. All I keep telling to a lot of my colleagues is achievement is achievable, not magical at all. Now comes to the question, if I have a good potential, I'm ready to try and expand my potential, will I be relevant in this world? In the world we encounter from now, you cannot afford to be irrelevant. My most important message to all of us, particularly in this situation, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, when you're out into the market, 3 months from now, you need to be most relevant in order to take your life forward. So how do you convey to yourself whether you are relevant, or and how do you define relevance? Okay, let me give you a few examples. A highly skilled batsman, very skilled, but who's not a fast scorer, is he considered relevant in a T20 match? He may be a person with a lot of skill, but what's the point? In a T20 match, he's irrelevant because he's just not a fast scorer, right? There are other situations as well. A highly qualified and a knowledgeable academician. Hello, what's happening, Anand? Sorry, Anand. Move on. Anand, it's stuck. Move on, Anand. I'm not able to do page down anymore. You'll have to do it for me. You have to do it for me. I can't do the page down anymore.
Just a moment, sir. Anand, give me a moment.
So what I was trying to suggest is that in order to be relevant in life, we need to be ready to relate to a situation, be it the cricketer or be it the academician. And my next slide was about a district governor. Imagine a district governor who's never operated an email. All his life is now a district governor. And he is invited to address a conference by one of the clubs called the IT conference, subject being optimizing digitization. How strange it would appear that in such a scenario, you have these situations happening. Move on, Anand, move on, please. Next slide. There's a new wave of highly intricate innovations and smart approaches that are folding up. I don't want to get into all those details, but would only like to mention that at one point of time, I was very happy to call C2C not as consumer to consumer, but as competition to creativity. In a book of mine called Broadband Your Benchmarks, this is what I mentioned, that if there was no competition in this world, there was no creativity. But today, my focus changes. In my opinion, C2C is communication to commerce. If you are connected to communication, if you are connected to people, if you have a network, then you have an opportunity for commerce. Let's move on to appreciate that it's so important for us to be relevant. You and I are, some of us are trainers here today. We've come up as speakers. And an important tenet for us is, as trainers, we keep telling this to ourselves very often. If they can't learn the way we teach the way they learn. And this is what we need to do with our life. And our life is not too forward. Look at what one of the airlines have done recently. This is my second last slide. And this is an important one, something that came up yesterday. I'm giving you an example of how the world is evolving towards this crisis. United Airlines came up with a notification that they would limit seat selections in all cabins. So customers won't be able to select seats next to each other or middle seats. In other words, there would be no two passengers seated next to one another. And where there are only two seats, like the window and aisle, you would only have to occupy one of them. You would not have a neighbor. They've already made this announcement 2 days ago, 48 hours ago, and the world is appreciating them for their readiness to respond to these situations. So, my dear friends, it's time for us to believe that new approaches are the order of the day. If you and I have to unlock these uncertainties, we need to start preparing ourselves for the next run that happens to us in a pit stop. We need to re-engineer ourselves, change our tires, change our approach, change our strategy, so that no matter what, in the next run, the winning must be ours. Finally, I would like that we all close this session with what Albert Einstein had so well said. He described insanity and he says, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So if you want to do what you've done 5 years ago, if you want to continue for the next 5 years using strategies you applied 10 years ago, you and I may stay behind, may lose out in life. Let us carry with us the first mover advantage, and let us be blessed with new approaches. We need to get onto the mode of creative destruction, where all the creativity that we have needs to be destroyed first. Only when we kill that creativity that exists in us, I promise you, we will be blessed with higher levels of creativity. And that is what creative destruction is all about. It was such a pleasure addressing all of you on this occasion, and I have great pleasure using this opportunity to thank you for your participation, congratulate the organizers for this most outstanding experience. God be with you. looking forward to see a different person in you. Even your wife, your children, your neighbors, your best friends must see a new person in you in the next 30 days, in the next 45 days. The staff who are working with you must see that excitement and confidence in you, that they get confident about themselves. All the very best. God bless, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pyari Sunil Kumar. If it is okay, could I just read out some questions to you?
Surely.
Great. So most of them want to know about where can they find the books that you have authored?
Well, I had a different approach to writing books, Ruchita, and these books were, I've got about 6 books published. I don't know why, but I carried this thought that these books would only be given to those hundreds of people who had attended my 5-day program. And every year I used to write a book, but I'm happy to share some of the contents with them, maybe rewrite another book, because I've got nothing else to do for the next 20 days, replicate those big books and give it to those who want them.
Sounds great. So anybody who has heard that and want a book, please drop a mail either to PID Sunil Kumar or to PDG Rajesh Kumar Mehra, and they would get probably a book back to you. The second question is how we can convince friendly about uncertain situation to other Lion members to help society.
When there's opportunity like never before, believe you me, our paradigm today of service, I see, and it's good. After a long time, I see it's undergoing a change. What exactly services has been in our organization limited to service activity. And in a lot of my speeches at events, I keep telling a lot of my friends and Lions, we are not a community service organization. We are a community development organization. And a service activity is a small portion of community development. So majority of the Lions are focusing on service activity. I've got to do a health camp. I've got to poor feed an orphanage. Well, that's required, most required. But what is important is, what is it that a club or a group of Lions or a district can do by virtue of which you are securing the future of the community? Educational initiatives. Believe you me, there are so many wanting students today, and they want to come and be blessed with learning that is out of regular curriculum. Let Lions move forward and give it to them. For the rest of their life, they would thank you that you have involved them in a process that supports their life tomorrow. Health is now a focus issue globally. How do I manage my health? Not manage my illness. Managing my illness is community service. Managing my health is community development. And I think this is another important area where Lions can actually blast the mold and move on to very big zones.
So true. We have to find the positivity in the times that exist. The next question is, does our present action, please pardon my English, sometimes I'm just reading what they have written. Does our present action take us out from the future uncertainties?
Of course, you can't stop the uncertainty from happening, but you can arm yourself to encounter that uncertainty. Let me give you an example. Today, most parts of the world, which was not ready for COVID-19, what have they done? They have evolved into better systems. So should another COVID happen, God forbid, or should another disaster struck us, I think our governments would be better prepared. Our people would be better prepared. So don't you ever come to a conclusion, how can I prevent an uncertainty? You cannot prevent an uncertainty. What you can do is upscale yourself to encounter an uncertainty which comes to you without giving you an option. Thank you.
Thank you, PID Sunil. The next is, I don't know if you want to answer this question or not. Can we be able to keep the GDP of our country more than 1% to 3% in this situation?
Well, it all depends on governance. If you ask me a prorated question relating to a business, a small size business, and if the business also asks their staff the same question, this is what was our revenue. Because of the COVID, our revenue has fallen down. Would we ever be able to climb up to this revenue? The answer would be yes. So it's all related to governance. I think if the government of India takes it upon itself that achieving a higher level of GDP than that is currently being predicted, which is a negative GDP. Let me share this with you. What is being predicted is a negative GDP. If they are very firm on it, they can convert GDP into positive. The power has already moved. The economic power is moving very strongly from the west to east. There is a lot of emerging of new countries, and singularly China and India are mentioned. And thanks to the way we managed COVID, I think there's a lot of opportunity in India which can propel India into a level beyond imagination.
Totally agree on that and amen to that. The next question is, what and how our organization must change once the pandemic is called off?
The organizations must get ready now, not when COVID concludes. And I see a lot of organizations doing it. I'm a part of a very large discussion group in this country. A number of us are interacting on an economic level, forget about social level. And there's a lot of augmenting the scenario that's happening. Skills are being upgraded, and what I can see is that organizations will have a challenge for a little time, but they will scale up to a level of sustainability very soon. And if someone who's been watching the stock market, they've started realizing that there were a couple of occasions when the stock market was closed for 15 minutes when it gets on to the lower circuits, and it has happened twice. And from such a scenario, you have people who are ready to now invest money, and faith in the organizations, in the corporations by people at large is on. So I see a huge opportunity there. So I don't think we need to be so much worried about corporations failing. Failures will definitely happen where people are unwilling to change, and they have to start believing that all success of the past was merely rudimentary. What is right now required is achieving success in difficult times is a bigger initiative, and I see people are ready for it. I've never seen this kind of education in the masses in all my life. So soon people are aware of how to prevent themselves from being attacked by COVID-19. Now that itself is the beginning point for us to believe that our awareness levels have gone up and corporations would benefit from this.
Totally agree on that. Well, just to inform you that since we have people from over 15 countries over this webinar, so they have a special request to make to you. Since you're planning to rewrite the book or new books again, they are requesting you to please have a Kindle edition because it'll be very difficult for them to obtain these hard copies overseas. Kindly do consider that. And the next question is, we need to adopt challenges for unlocking uncertainties. When it comes to IT services too, many of them will be facing now. How to overcome this challenge?
Zoom is a great example. I have a multiple district, 21 DG team members. I asked a question to them, how many of them And this was just about 10 days ago or 15 days ago. How many of them have heard about Zoom? And you got one or two answers. What is Zoom? Is it a binoculars? You know what kind of responses you get. And today, everyone is aware of how to operate a Zoom. One of our districts has done a Zoom convention. I addressed a Zoom conference of about 600 or 500 people from 3 to 4 B2. Erode Governor had invited me as a keynote speaker. And it was live on Zoom with over 500 people there. And imagine in a place like Tamil Nadu, which is not even Chennai, it is most rural, people got used to it. In my own town, people got used to it. So it's a big evolution, IT evolution and people evolving. Both of them have shaken hands very powerfully. Lions Clubs International should be very, very well informed about this big leap Lions of India have taken, where people are now absolutely literate as far as IT is concerned, at least in certain areas. So I see this will expand to many more.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's all for questions for now. Mr. Anand, can you please take over?
Thank you, Ruchita. Thank you very, very much for that questions. And Sunil Kumarji, thank you very, very much for that insightful understanding into this uncertainty. I'm sure everyone after this are feeling much more motivated, positive, and also feeling that yes, we have a great future ahead. Thank you for giving us such a wonderful positive feeling through your stories, through your very, very practical examples and cases, which really have made a big difference. Thank you very much, sir.